Welcome everybody to the IEP 101, an overview of section 404 plans.
504. Typo.
Okay, it's the 504 plans. Your presenter this afternoon is Joanne Pearson. She's the Advocacy Outreach Coordinator at CIL of Northwest Florida. I'm Danny Broxson. I'll be your tech host, and I'm the IL specialist at CIL as well. And without further ado, I'm just going to jump in and let Joanne take it away.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Excuse my typo on that title page. Today we're talking about section 504 under the Rehab Act. Go to the next slide, Danny. I'm going to tell you a little bit about CIL and what we do here. Our mission at CIL of Northwest Florida is to promote, educate, facilitate, and assist, and also advocate with and on behalf of people with disabilities in partnership with their communities to achieve their goal for independence. Our center serves Escambia, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, and Walton counties, and we offer 5 core services as well as other programs and activities. But our 5 core services do include individual assistance advocacy, information and referral services, independent living skills training, peer counseling and mentoring, transitional services. Some of the other programs and activities that we offer is assistive technology programs. That is through our FAST program, amplified telephones through our FTRI program. We do offer equipment loans. These are no charge items that are needed for daily living. Social and recreational activities. We also have support groups and community education and training. Next slide. Our objectives for today are to talk about what section 504 is. I'll give you a brief definition. Specific obligations of the school, reasonable accommodations and modifications that can be done for the students, the referral process, protections for eligible students, and dispute resolution. Next slide. So what is section 504? It is part of the Rehab Act of 1973. Section 504 is a federal law that prohibits disability discrimination by recipients of federal financial assistance. So all public schools, school districts, as well as all public charter schools, magnet schools, institutions of learning that receive federal financial assistance from the department must comply with section 504. Next slide. Section 504 provides a broad spectrum of protection against discrimination based on disability. For example, all qualified elementary and secondary public school students who meet the definition of an individual with a disability under section 504 are entitled to receive regular or special education and related aids and services that are designed to meet their individual educational needs as adequately as the needs of students without disabilities are met. Section 504 also requires, among other things, that a student with a disability receives an equal opportunity to participate in athletics and other extracurricular activities, and to be free from bullying and harassment based on disability. Next slide. So what is the definition of a disability? Under section 504, an individual with a disability, also referred to as a student with a disability in the elementary and secondary school education context, is defined as a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits a major life activity. And we'll talk about those in a few minutes. They have a record of such an impairment or is regarding as having such an impairment. Next slide. Physical and mental impairments under Section 504, they are defined as any mental or physical, mental or psychological disorder, a physiological disorder or condition, a cosmetic disfigurement, or an anatomical loss affecting one or more of the following body systems. And I'm not going to read those to you. You can take a look at those. And the list is not all inclusive. Next slide. Examples of major life activities. Again, this list is not all inclusive. It includes caring for oneself. They may not be able to bend, performing manual tasks, speaking, seeing, breathing, hearing, learning, eating, reading, sleeping, trouble concentrating, walking, thinking, standing, communicating, lifting, and working. Next slide. IDEA is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It was formerly known as the Education for All Handicapped Children Act of 1975, EHA. It's also known as the second landmark law. It's very detailed and focused on education only. It spells out actions and services required by states. Both IDEA and Section 504 were written in 1977. Section 504 covers discrimination. So let's go to the next slide. So we're going to talk about the differences in IDEA and Section 504. So under IDEA, it established a grant to fund FAPE, which is free, appropriate public education, to all students in need of special education services. It provides specific requirements for the states to receive the funds. And Congress promised to fund 40% of the cost of educating a student with special needs. Under 504 is not a law or a federal education program. The states do not receive any grants or funding to provide the accommodations and services needed under the Act. And acts of discrimination are seen as a civil rights violation. The school district responsibilities is what we're going to talk about now. The school district must ensure that discrimination does not exist based on the denial of opportunity to participate in or benefit from an aid, service, or benefit being offered. The offering of a service that is not equal to that afforded to non-disabled students, and the provision of an aid, benefit, or service that is not effective as that provided to a non-disabled student. Next slide. Reasonable accommodations that may be given under the Act. These are some examples, and again, it's not all inclusive. Interpreters may be provided for someone that is deaf or hard of hearing. Read aloud services may be offered. Alternative printed materials, like they may be printed in Braille or large print. Adaptive bus transportation may be provided. Modified schedules, extended time to do homework or test taking, preferential seating in the classroom, assistance at field trips, opportunities to redo work or retake a test. Next slide. The referral process is shown here on this slide, and I'm going to talk about this, how it starts, how it continues, and ongoing. The pre-referral process is when the team of educators meets And because they've identified difficulties in students' performance, then the referral is made. It may be from a parent, it may be from a medical professional, or possibly from a community agency. Then the process continues. A notice to the parents is given. It will contain a notice of intent to evaluate, the reason for the evaluation, the description, and procedural safeguards that will be taken. Written consent will be needed, but 504 does not require consent to evaluate, but this is always the best practice. You want to get the written consent of the parent. But parents need to be aware that the school system can test and evaluate under Section 504 without consent. Evaluation conducted. It must be done before the initial placement or subsequent significant change of placement can be made. And what we were talking about by placement is, will the student need to be educated in a separate unit or included in the standard classroom? A service plan will then be written. The parent will have input, and the team develops this plan to meet the student's unique needs together. Implementation of the 504 plan will happen. All teachers and school personnel, anybody that is going to be providing services or a benefit under this program, need to be notified about the program and make sure that they understand how to implement the program and what's expected. Then periodic reviews will be conducted to make sure that the program is effective and that everyone is in compliance. Next slide. Now, who is protected under the 504 plan? All eligible students under IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, are protected under 504, except for categories added by a particular state law. So states may have individual requirements and they may add other categories. So refer to your state law for more information. A much broader population of students can be served under 504. Many students that do not qualify under IDEA do qualify under 504, and this may include students that are performing well academically, but may have, for example, diabetes, or possibly epilepsy, or things that are episodical and require medication and mitigation, but the student doesn't actually have a learning disability or is having trouble with their studies except for when these things occur. Next slide. The dispute resolution process is as follows here. It has basically 5 steps. Once the plan is written and a parent decides that there's been a violation somehow, or they're not happy with the plan, a complaint must be submitted to the Office of Civil Rights, otherwise known as OCR, within 180 days after the violation occurs. So don't wait. Within 15 days of OCR receiving the complaint, they must acknowledge receipt of the complaint. And then they have 135 days to complete their investigation of the complaint and issue what's called a findings letter. And it will have a complete report of what they found that is related to your complaint. If you don't agree with the findings letter, an appeal can be made, and it must be submitted within 30 days after receiving the findings letter. The Office of Civil Rights will then respond to that appeal within 90 days, and then the decision is final. Next slide. I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to present to you today. Because information in this presentation is so detailed and may require legal intervention or legal information, I am not authorized to be able to give that. So I ask that your questions be submitted to info@cilnwf.org and we can get those answered for you. The information contained in this presentation is just a general overview and does not contain any legal representation. Please seek an attorney's counsel for further info. The slides will be available on our website along with the recording of this presentation. If you need anything further or alternative printed materials, please also email us and let us know, and we can present those materials to you in an alternative format. Thank you so much for attending today. Our grants and services are provided in part by United Way and Vocational Rehabilitation. And I also wanted to take the opportunity to tell you about our transitional services that we offer through CIL. And they can be obtained by contacting us at 850-595-5566. And your students can participate by asking your teachers, school counselors, social workers, VR counselors to make referrals to CIL to obtain youth transition services. And we want every student to have options to develop their own choices for their future. So thank you so much for attending today. And if you have more questions about transitional services, please be sure to contact us and we can tell you what those services entail and what we offer under that plan. Have a great day.